Is spending thousands of dollars to make sounds like this a waste of your money and creative effort? Well, it depends on how you think of your art, your career, and your money. And answering this question for myself has been a whole personal journey. Over the years, I, like many musicians, have acquired lots and lots of things. And from the outside, this may look like a frivolous habit, but to me, gear purchases have always felt more like an investment in myself, because each new thing acquired unlocks something new that I'm able to do, or raises the quality of the service that I'm able to provide. There's hardly anything better you can invest in than your own skills, right? Or at least that's how I've always felt, and it's definitely how I've always justified buying more and more shit. But are all creative rabbit holes worth going down? Is there a point at which the cost of a piece of gear outweighs what you'll be able to do with it? And what's the line between investing in your own creativity and irresponsible spending? Well, there's perhaps no sector of the music gear world that puts these questions to the test better than the world of modular synthesis. In 2016, I had just begun my synthesis journey in the sense that I had sold my keyboards that I could play synth sounds on and started buying keyboards that I could do synthesis on. I sold my Microkorg and Roland's Juno DI for a sequential profit and an Ovation Bass Station 2. And my mind was expanding with a newfound passion for oscillators, LFOs, envelopes, filters, and all that good stuff. And then I scrolled past a video on my Facebook newsfeed that would kick that passion into high gear. It was a video about the synthesist Charles Cohen. Now, the video itself was in an article about how he had just been arrested for soliciting sex from a minor, but it also featured clips of him playing the Buchla music easel. I had never heard of Buchla or heard anything like these sounds, and boy did it send me down a rabbit hole. Suddenly, I was obsessively researching small boutique synthesizer companies, learning about the history of East Coast versus West Coast synthesis, and dreaming about which modules I could mix and match to make the craziest sounds you've ever heard. Now, for the uninitiated, modular synthesis is this. When you buy a synthesizer, generally you're buying a prepackaged bundle of some basic components. A keyboard, some oscillators, some filters, some envelopes, some LFOs, and maybe a sequencer. And you might have some idea of what these components do. An oscillator produces a pitch, and you can tune it and choose between square waves and triangle waves and sawtooth waves. A filter sculpts the frequency range, and there's probably a cutoff and a resonance knob, etc. But what you learn further down the synthesis rabbit hole is that all these basic components can actually be way, way, way deeper and more complicated than you thought.
The core of René has always been Cartesian motion.
So we'll first look at the probability, distribution, width, and shape.
The result will be interlocking sequences whose relationships will create sonic complexity that is greater than the sum of its parts.
So I was obsessed. I thought this was going to be my next big musical direction, and I was seriously considering getting either a make-noise shared system or a Buchla music easel. But here's the thing. Modular synthesis isn't just expensive. It's expensive. Like, maybe I could have gotten a few modules, but I didn't really see any path to the good stuff, the really good stuff, without dropping like $5,000 minimum. The reason is that these are all small companies that hand make their parts, and kind of the whole thing is that they're optimizing for the highest and deepest levels of sonic exploration, not affordability. That's the whole point. If they were trying to sell the most products and have the widest appeal, they just make basic synths. And so, after many a late night spent scouring the internet, drooling over these things, I decided that I just couldn't do it. And it was genuinely sad to just close a door on things that I was inspired by. But I just couldn't justify spending like $5,000 to make bleeps and sound effects. Before, buying gear always felt like an investment in things I'd be able to do and gigs I'd be able to get. If I went modular, what was that going to bring me? Making weird sounds in my basement? Playing noise shows to like 10 people? So I took that little voice in my head that was inspired to make the craziest sounds I had ever heard, and I just turned it off. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think that as you get into the higher and higher levels of synthesis, the diminishing returns are severe. Not just in terms of the professional opportunities that are available, but also in terms of what kind of music you can make. And what I mean by that is, I can already make bleeps and bloops and sound effects basically for free. I mean, the Make Noise René might be way deeper and more powerful than any sequencer that comes on any standard synth, but is the musical result cooler than what I can do with the sequencer and Logic? And the Make Noise Echophone may be wider ranging and more complicated than what any normal delay can do, but there's a lot of cool delay pedals out there, and just running my synth through one of them is pretty cool too. Now, hey, maybe I'm wrong about all of this. I'm probably outing myself as not a very knowledgeable audiophile here, and somebody with more advanced tastes than I would probably scoff at the notion that pedals and plugins could rival boutique synth modules. Maybe the difference in sonic depth and power would matter to them immediately, and if in fact the problem is me, well, it wouldn't be my first time clashing with the modular synth community. Story time. So, like I mentioned earlier, around the time that I was first getting into all this, I was obsessed with the Make Noise black and gold shared system. But there were a couple things missing that would have made it perfect for me. I thought I needed a keyboard and the ability to save and recall presets. It needs a keyboard because, duh, I'm a keyboard player and I want to be able to play these beautiful sounds musically. And it needs presets because, duh, if I hit upon a sound that I like and it makes its way into a song, I'm not gonna repatch it every time I play that song, especially if my other hands are busy playing parts on other keyboards, and especially if I'm in the middle of a gig. I need to be able to hit a button and load up my sound. So I took a photo of the shared system and I photoshopped in a keyboard and a preset bank. And I photoshopped in a picture of the founder of the company in a little wizard hat, and I posted it on his Facebook wall, asking him to make it. I know, a little cringe. Well, it's a pretty small community, so he saw it, and I guess he must have thought it was hilarious because he reposted it, and the modular synth community basically eviscerated me on the internet.
It would be exhausting to explain what a lost cause you are. I've been thinking about selling pre-patched and glued modular systems. Instead of spending all that time connecting wires and turning knobs, just buy a preset from me, and I'll ship you the whole modular system pre-patched and superglued, so it can never accidentally change. Maybe they should also build a mini fridge into the case cover.
And you know what? I deserved that. Because I was missing the point. The world of modular synth is a whole subculture with a whole history and ethos. And it is really cool, and I do actually really respect that world. In this world, to use a keyboard is kind of missing the point. Notes and chords and melodies aren't the forefront musical elements in that music. It's timbre, the way a filter opens, the way that a waveform is modulated. These are things that just get lost in normal music. You're not going to notice an LFO subtly modulating the delay time if it's sharing sonic space with a full band. A keyboard would probably just detract from the sound design, from creating the most beautiful and deep timbres. And if you need to save presets, you're also missing the point. It's about the journey of sonic exploration and the present moment. It's about patching and tweaking and turning knobs until you end up somewhere beautiful, maybe only partly even knowing how you got there. And knowing that once you unpatch it, that sound is gone forever. It's like the tradition of Tibetan monks who make elaborate paintings out of sand, only to wash it away as a way to practice non-attachment. That is damn cool and beautiful. It's an awesome approach to music, and I have a lot of respect for it. I just don't personally feel the need to spend $10,000 to achieve it. So if it's for you, then it's for you. And if you have the money to get into it, then I'm happy for you. Maybe you can give me some investment advice or something. But I'm going to stick to the sound effects in my VSTs and running my keyboards through guitar pedals. Because in my opinion, that's good enough for most musical situations. I'm all about convenience, practicality, and return on investment, which in a lot of ways is the opposite of what they go for in the modular synth world. But I don't mean to be overly negative when it comes to gear. So if you want to know about what keyboards and synths I do use, then click on this video next, because I did a whole video on my touring rig, and I think you might like it. So I'll see you there.